This is Zeno Robinson, the voice of Cyborg, and you're listening to Whelmed, the Young Justice Files.
Recognized Uncle Walker D01. Recognized Emily of Arden D12.
Hello team, welcome to Scream Something Volume 7. My name is Rich and I'm here with my co-host Emily.
Hey everybody, in Scream Something, Rich and I will be sharing our initial thoughts and reactions for the episodes of Season 3 that were released last Tuesday. There will be plenty of Aster in these episodes, but we'll be saving our deeper analysis for the full episode breakdowns we have planned for after the season finale.
This work, this life, it's too dangerous. The League never should have sanctioned it. As your legal guardian, I never should have sanctioned it. I will not let you...
Jay, this isn't about me. It's not even about Wally. This is about Joan. You're in mourning, lost, alone, but I'm not going anywhere. There are meta-teens out there who are also lost and alone. Someone needs to be there for these kids. If not us, then who?
Mom, you're right. Now that we're in the open, we're targets. But really, that's nothing new. Meta-teens feel like they're in the crosshairs all the time. Someone has to empower them. If not us, then who?
You and I have had tough times, but we always find our way. I want nothing more than for us to be a family. You know families of meta-teens are being torn apart every day. Someone needs to show them families can survive and stay together. If not you and me, then who? Whom?
And with all that out of the way, let's hand it over to Emily for...
Hello, Megan!
The titles for this week's episodes are Elder Wisdom, Quiet Conversations, and Unknown Factors. The release dates were July 23rd, July 30th, and August 6th of 2019. The in-episode dates are December 31st through January 22nd. The directors were Christopher Berkeley, Mel Zwire, and Vinton Hugh, and the writers were Paul Giacopo, Greg Weisman, and Brandon Vietti.
Just in time for your next mission.
Episode 19 begins at the UN Climate Conference in Bundasa, where both Garth and Donna Troy are attacked by masked figures claiming to be part of the Bundan Independence Front. However, the outsiders are there and prevent the assassination attempts while also rescuing a mind-controlled meta-teen in the process. However, as the fight is winding down, the Flash arrives on the scene to wrap everything up, having been called in by Lex Luthor, who's just trying to prove that the current system works just fine without teen heroes showing up. Beast Boy thinks they were set up by Lex Luthor, but neither the team nor the League can actually prove it was a setup, even though he's absolutely right. When the outsiders arrive back in Taos, McGann tries to confront Halo about her recent reckless behavior, while Ed's father tries to forbid Ed from participating in the outsiders, but both of these conversations go nowhere, and all of the outsiders leave together via boom tube like the squad that they are. The next day at the premiere building in LA, Jace informs Violet that she and her mentor still haven't found a solution to Halo's apparent cell death, and the outsiders get a social media distress call from a young girl in Ireland who's apparently been attacked by Professor Ivo's monkey robots. But before our heroes can head out, 3 of their parents arrive on the scene to prevent their kids from risking their lives yet again. While Beast Boy, Static, and Blue Beetle go off to save the day, Cassie, Bart, and Ed have to stay behind to work things out with their various guardians. While the family fight continues downstairs, Brione confronts Violet about how distant she's been lately, and she admits to kissing Harper, and then tells both Brione and Tara that Gabrielle aided in the assassination of their parents, which sends Tara into a near panic attack. It's a whole thing. In Dublin, the outsiders find their way to a warehouse full of Lex Luthor's spider bots, where they battle Ivo's monkeys and rescue the girl who called them. And back in LA, Cassie, Ed, and Bart convince their parents to let them continue working with the Outsiders after a whole emotional family discussion. After all of this, we get a G. Gordon Godfrey broadcast featuring Lex Luthor, who gets completely humiliated by the continued international support for the Outsiders. And later in Gotham City, a meeting of the secret Anti-Light organization reveals that the entire Dublin mission was a setup to further cement the Outsiders' good reputation. And that's what you missed.
So many mixed feelings about that. Oh my goodness. With episode 20, it opens on Victor wandering the streets of Hollywood and getting a phone call from his dad. The call goes poorly, though, and just after hanging up, Vic screams in pain and stumbles into an alley where Forager eventually finds him. 2 days later. Fred brings him back to the Premier building for help, where it's revealed that Vic's cybernetics are trying to overwhelm his entire body. Connor calls in Dreamer to help with Vic's condition, and she reveals that the only thing that can save him is the Mobius chair of Metron. Meanwhile, Violet has left a note and run away from home, because when it rains, it pours. So Artemis and Tara head off to find her. Dreamer leaves the mother box with Connor, and he, Forager, and Jefferson travel to the source wall, which is amazing, via boom tube to track down Metron. At Happy Harbor High, Megan's having a guidance counselor session with Harper, which we'll get back to in a bit. Violet arrives in Karak to speak with Gabrielle's mother, and over in Taos, Calder and the aquatic Meditine from Cuba Zeta to Poseidonus. In Hollywood, Dr. Stone arrives at the Premier building to help Victor, and despite Vic's anger at his father, he agrees to be put in a medically induced coma to stop the father box's advance. Out in space, the boys are chasing after Metron and eventually run into Superman fighting some parademons. After helping with the fight, they plead their case to Metron, who agrees to accompany them back to Earth. In Hollywood, Jace has a one-sided conversation with Brion about Halo, and after arriving at Vic's bedside, Metron reveals that he's not there to help Vic, he's there to study his impending death. Classic Metron. But our heroes aren't going to let that happen, so they just straight up attack Metron and throw Vic into his chair. That's what needs to happen. In Atlantis, Calder introduces the Meditine girl to King Orin, as well as to his parents, and she reassures him that he is still a good person, even if she could tell that he had lied to King Orin. McGann and Harper's counseling session continues as they touch on various aspects of her troubled home life, eventually resulting in Harper admitting that her father is abusive and seeking McGann's help. Back in Hollywood, Metron's chair permanently cleanses Vic of Father Box's influence, and Metron leaves after making some vague, threatening statements about granny goodness. Yes and no? I don't know. Vic hugs his dad, and in Kurak, Halo does her best to explain who and what she is, finally giving Gabrielle's mother some closure about her daughter's death. And we end the episode with a montage of Tara and Artemis reuniting with Violet. McGann brings Harper and her little brother to Child Protective Services. Calder kisses his partner Wind, and everyone's safe and happy for the first time in a long while, including many fans. And as our last scene, Tara happily ends a phone call by telling Slade that she'll keep him posted.
It's fine. Everything's fine. It's all cheerful. It's great.
That's right.
Loving
Nothing's
that
going on here, Slade.
It's got to be ominous.
Everything's been calm here, Slade. We're all good. Alrighty.
She just seems so happy. We'll get into it. But episode 21 opens with Nightwing and Black Lightning, with Oracle on tech support, breaking into Gretchen Good's house to do some recon. The mother box that they still have with them identifies Apocalypton tech on the premises, but after they enter the house, Oracle loses contact with both of them and they disappear into a boom tube that opens in the floor. It's fine. After that, we cut over to a very happy scene in Atlantis where we find out Dolphin, the aquatic Meditine from last episode, is adjusting quite well to underwater life. However, Calder's time with his partner Wind is interrupted by Oracle contacting him to tell him that Nightwing and Lightning have been missing for almost 24 hours. Apparently, everyone else is busy, so she has to ask Calder to help rescue them. And after overhearing the conversation, Wind volunteers to help as well. We then cut over to Ivytown, where we see Mal Duncan and a very pregnant Karen Beecher traveling through the snow, discussing the possibility of their child having a metagene and how Karen's scientific research could affect that outcome. However, their conversation is interrupted by Karen's water breaking, so they've got to rush off to the hospital now. Back in Hollywood, we see that Victor and his dad are back on good terms with each other, but it seems that Brion is still giving Violet the cold shoulder since that Gabrielle reveal. And Jace tells Violet that she'll be texting her mentor tonight, so Violet still shouldn't tell anyone she's sick until they figure out a cure. Logic that makes absolutely zero sense, and we're still mad at her about it. Over at Gretchen Good's place, Calder and Wind openly approach the house, like totally normal, reasonable people. But as soon as they're let inside, Oracle loses contact with them again. Calder asks to be taken to Nightwing and Lightning, and Gretchen Good asks something named Overlord to open that same boom tube portal again. At Ivytown Hospital, Karen gives birth to a baby girl, but there's a problem with her heart. So Karen then uses her bumblebee suit to shrink down to microscopic size to perform heart surgery on her daughter. The procedure goes well, but afterward, Karen contemplates the future well-being of her daughter and whether or not she should use her scientific discoveries to give her daughter the metagene.
So much is going on in these episodes. We're not done yet. Back in L.A., Gretchen Good transports Calder and Wind to the X-Pit, where Nightwing and Lightning are undergoing correction and discipline. This Gretchen Good is horrifying. Calder and Wind are able to retrieve the heroes from their torture, but when they attempt to leave, Gretchen Good claims that she did not give them permission to take the Mother Box along with their friends, and orders a now mind-controlled Nightwing and Lightning to attack. However, the attack on the Mother Box by Overlord alerts Vic and Violet to its distress, and both of them, Vic's boom tube, along with Garfield and Brion, arrive at the scene to save their friends. Halo is able to heal the Mother Box and cleanse both Lightning and Nightwing, but Gretchen Good threatens to destroy all of them. Before she can do anything, Oracle sends a guided missile strike that knocks her out and allows our heroes to escape via boom tube. From the Batwing, it looked like. There's some ominous dialogue of Gretchen talking to the weird little Overlord thing she has. Overlord. Wow.
I don't know what it is. I'm just running with it.
Yeah, that's true. Overlord's a thing. So there's only some slightly less ominous dialogue of Karen telling Mal that she had stayed inside for a very long time to decide to do the right thing for their daughter. Back in Hollywood, Dick is maybe not fully recovered. I'm not sure, but he's struggling. And Brion apologizes to Violet, and they hug it out. But that little apology hug upsets Dr. Jace, and she texts her mentor, who is apparently ultra-humanite, that there are complications and she needs to get, quote, her kids out, unquote. And in Young Justice's first ever post-credit scene, we see Gretchen Good tell Darkseid that she's found the anti-life equation.
It's fine. This is fine. everything's fine. This is fine. We're fine.
Fine. It's not fine.
It's fine. This is fine.
Yeah, let's get to some Aster.
Superboy, are you alright?
I'm fine. Feeling the Aster.
So, right off the bat, I do just want to point out in that first episode of this segment, episode 19,
yeah,
Ed and Bart absolutely look like they're dating during that fight.
I agree.
The concern and the you catch your boyfriend during a fight. That's what you do. I'm just accept their headcanon dating for me.
Yeah.
They're dating. They're cute. I like them.
I agree 100%. That's just the way it is. And, I don't know why, considering they have no problem showing Calder and Wind being them. I don't know. There seems like something strange going on with what they're allowed to show or something, and I don't know what that is. But anyway, Ed and Bart.
But anyway, they're
in.
cute. They're fun. I like it. I like the ongoing joke that he's just like, I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to heal really quick. And everyone's like, you almost died.
Yes.
But that same episode has just some also just really interesting world building stuff going on with some of the social media things. Like they bring up the fact that there was apparently a former hero registration act back in the 50s, the 60s. And I'm just like, well, that's fascinating. Tell me more.
Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense if you're going to be building this consistent world, I mean, that 50s, 60s was, there was so much Cold War scare and other stuff going on post World War II with the All-Star Squadron and Justice Society, like communist scare. I'm like, okay, that sounds it tracks.
Yeah.
It all tracks.
Yeah. As soon as he said it, I was like, what? Well, obviously, of course. I just never knew until this moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
But we also have that same scene with Lex Luthor, and G. Gordon Godfrey gives us that wonderful reveal that so many of the heroes have in quote unquote in character public Twitter accounts, which is a fascinating thing that I've always kind of wondered about superhero media, where I'm like, please tell me this is a thing. And I love that it is a thing in the Young Justice universe. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It just, thinking about it now, it reminds me of, in relatively recent comics, I read an issue of Batgirl that referenced the fact that Catwoman has an Instagram account for her cat. That her cat is Instagram famous. And
also
I'm like, I love it.
Tracks. That also
I
tracks.
love it.
Yeah.
I love the incorporation of social media into superhero media. It's very fun. And I know one of your favorite things about these episodes was Dolphin. So do you want to talk about Dolphin? Because I am fascinated by this girl.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, this past Monday, Emily, Neal, and I were on the DC Daily Show. And so I bring up a little bit about Dolphin, but I'll talk a bit more here, probably even more in the episode breakdown. But this thing with Dolphin, Dolphin was this character, a mute character who's got kind of this unknown origin. I'm not an expert on Dolphin. I do know that she's a member of the Aqua family, and this take on her, where in the comics she's mute, and they kind of did that, the first scenes we're seeing her above water, but then being able to have her communicate underwater makes some sense. But this scene, who she is and who her background is, and I have a name, I'm not going to tell you what it is now, right? That kind of thing is, I'm like, interesting. Okay. Right? Where the dolphin in the comics, I believe, either had some amnesia. We're going to have listeners, if you're a dolphin expert, bring it on, because I haven't had time to do more research on this. But from what I understand, she has amnesia and or does not know where she had come from in the first place. But this scene with Calder, this thing where after she says, I'm not going to tell you what my name is, and then she says, I've known bad men. Bad men do not feel bad when they lie.
Tell me your backstory.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to know.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's, once again, this Young Justice thing of, it's like an encapsulation of classic Young Justice, right? Re-envisioning a character, maybe a character not a lot of people know about, but re-envisioning that character to fit into the world that they've created here. It's its own Earth 16 world, right? Making that work, and then putting thought into it. Not just saying hey, let's throw a dolphin in to have her make this comment to Calder, and it's all about Calder. No, I'm now fascinated by this character, and I want to know what they're doing with this dolphin. So I need to go back and read some more old DC encyclopedias and find out more about the history of Dolphin. So, but still, amazing. Connor and Clark.
I love it. I love him so much. I loved that scene so much. It made me so happy. Yeah. I love that Connor calls him his brother. I love that they're the only two who use their Kryptonian names. Yep. I love that, in the middle of all this craziness, Connor's like, hey, be my best man. And Clark just immediately agrees to it, and then takes a second and is like, wait, when did you get engaged?
Right.
Because he's been off world for so long.
I've been fighting parademons for a minute.
He's like, I've been traveling through space. When did you get engaged?
Right.
And he just
nobody
runs
that
with
makes
it.
my head spin like that kid. Yeah.
Oh, I love
Classic.
it. I love their whole relationship. I love how we've gotten to see it progress over 3 seasons. It's wonderful. It's heartwarming. I loved that whole bit.
It does make me wonder, though, is he going to show up? So this thing, Connor kind of has a secret identity. So is Clark Kent going to show up at the wedding? Is it going to be a public superhero wedding? Is it going to be Superman?
So I've thought too much about this.
Perfect.
And I have no
That's what I was
answer
hoping.
Because they have 2 very distinct, different friend groups. I'm like,
right,
do
exactly.
you have 2 weddings? Are these friend groups allowed to mix? What do you do? Do you
know
just
what?
go,
And
here are
there are
all of
people
my
who've done
weird
that.
friends from things that you don't know?
Yeah.
Just
well,
just
that, and that's it, right? People have had weddings where they've had their families are across the world or whatever, and they have a ceremony in whatever, the States or something, and then a friend of mine had a ceremony here and had a ceremony in India. It was great, but maybe
Because, like, the only other option is you do, like, joint wedding where you got superhero people and normal people, everybody just, like, in their secret identities. And then you have, like, cheerleaders asking, like, so how do you know Artemis? And McGann's just like, summer camp. I don't know. Like, just panic and come up with an explanation.
Right. But if I remember correctly, in The Incredibles, in the first movie, when they're getting married, like, Frozone says, like, oh, you've got the mask on. So he, like, takes the mask off and he goes down the aisle and he's all dressed or whatever. But when they pan to the audience, there's, like, Gazer Beam is in full costume in the front seat. So I'm just like, wait, what?
Show me this superhero wedding. That's all I want. This season, next season, whenever it's happening, I don't care. This is all I want from Young Justice.
Your brand is strong.
My brand is very strong, but
that's true.
With Clark and Connor, with that whole scene, I also the phrase 1.5 Kryptonians made me laugh out loud. Just the fact that this is how Connor is quantified.
Yeah, and later on when he says, "To me, you're a 0.5 of nothing," and I'm like, okay, so does that mean that the human half is nothing, but the Kryptonian matters? Or is he referring to the 0.5 Kryptonian also not mattering and the human doesn't even get a percentage? Like,
or
just doesn't even bother?
Or does he just mean that, like, you're literally less than nothing?
Right. Yeah.
What level of this? You're negative infinity, Connor.
Oh, Metron. I was like, Metron's in this episode. How are they going to interpret him? Because sometimes he's jerky. I mean, he's jerky and kind of neutral and standoffish or whatever. This was great. I'm just like, oh, yes, lean into Metron's being a galactic troll.
I know nothing about him, so I was just running with it. It's like, weird floaty dude in a big robot chair. Sure. Oh, he's bad. Oh, sure.
Like when they said in the episode, he created the tech, right?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Anytime New Gods stuff shows up, especially New Gods stuff showing up, I'm just like, I'm just gonna run with it. I don't know what's happening.
What he says is like the father box is now, oh, your friend is now entirely Mobius tech. He doesn't say, whatever, Metron tech. Mobius tech. This chair is a thing, right? So yeah.
We'll see where it goes. I don't know what's gonna happen with Vic. But speaking of continuing with, there was so much that I really loved in this episode, and we're not going to be able to cover all of it. No. There's too much.
There's too much. We definitely have to cut some of this down.
But I absolutely love the counseling subplot that we get in this episode. I love how McGann handles it, then the care and intention and sincerity with which McGann deals with this entire scene. I love how it parallels Black Canary's scenes in season 1 right down to the framing of the shots of the two of them in the chairs. Yeah. I love how McGann's telepathy and ability to read people superpowerly never comes up, and this is entirely just her talking her way through a situation.
Yeah.
I love that she's being an everyday hero in the best possible way. I love the way that they have Harper slowly open up to her and slowly address these things where you as the viewer are like, just let her help you, but at the same time you understand exactly why she can't. Yeah. And I love the way that it subtly draws on McGann's experience, both with societal abuse and the innate need to protect her brother from something that threatened both of them, and how that's never explicitly addressed, but you understand that as a viewer the second she starts talking about it. I love this subplot so much.
Yeah, me too. It was a rough lead-in, and it was an important scene to have. And, I had... separately from this, I have had conversations recently about therapy in general. So, like, we've had a couple episodes, like you just mentioned, there's callbacks to Disordered in the first season involving therapy sessions. And some of these conversations, like the friend group that I have, we're all on the same page, right? Therapy is helpful. Go to therapy, right? It's a positive experience. You go and you talk to somebody who's disconnected from your story emotionally, give you perspective, right? But I was talking to people who still think that there's some kind of negativity to doing this, or that you have to wait until everything is gone horribly wrong for you before you decide to go talk to somebody about it. And I've been to therapy on multiple occasions throughout my 50 years for different things. And in some cases, it was simply a thing of like, look, I do not have perspective anymore on what this is, on what's going on in my life, my choices I'm making or the choices other people are making, and I need someone with perspective to go talk to. And so I did. It's important. Don't wait until you need help. Like, don't wait until it's too, like, you're hurting yourself, you're hurting other people, whatever it happens to be emotionally. Don't do that. Go. Think about getting some support and help. And I think this episode was really important on that front. Like I'd mentioned before, like I knew she had a bad background, but like our first scene with her in it was pretty rough. And I was like, wow, that's unfortunate. But this is here where she's protecting her little brother. This whole thing, that key moment where McGann says, maybe I've not seen bruises on him before until now. Maybe because you were in jail and you couldn't be there. You know, like the rock is breaking, you know, it's just, I've had too many friends, too many family members and loved ones go through this kind of abuse, and I have to have help because people can't figure their own stuff out and they have to carry that stuff on to other people, you know, and it goes generations by generations until you stop, you know, until you make the choice to say, I do not want to do this anymore. I don't want to perpetuate it. I want to go get some help. I want to be happier. I want to do better things in my life.
Along that same line, I do really love and appreciate the fact that the episode ended with resources, because shows have gotten better at doing that at the end of episodes like this that deal with something like this. But so often I've noticed that the only time media does it is when characters make the wrong decision, quote unquote, or do something that is dangerous or that they are not handling something well. And a show feels like they're like, don't do what this character is doing. Here are better resources. So I appreciate that the show is like, here is it happening in the narrative of someone making the right decision and making the right choice to get help in this situation. Also, here are resources for you if you are struggling as a viewer watching this. And I'm like, that's really important.
That's a great point. Because I grew up with so many, like, after school specials was like such a big thing. You know, and that when I saw this at the end, I was like, oh, thank you. And then also, man, I haven't seen something like this in a long time. Like, because they would put stuff up like that during certain shows, like in the 80s and 90s and stuff. But there was always, like you're saying, somebody making bad choices.
I've seen it on more recent stuff, but it is largely, I have seen multiple shows in my time that will have an episode in which a character is assaulted or something like that, and it will and they'll be like, I can't tell anyone, I have to hide this, I have to keep this secret for whatever reason, and then the episode will end with like, don't do what she did, here are resources. And I'm like, okay, but also it's important to still present those resources even when your narrative is also showing the proper way to handle that type of situation.
Yeah, you want to model that. You want to model a thing that if you're looking to present something you think is going to be helpful to somebody else, it's important to model it just like this. And it's the same thing with it's really the same thing with the Black Canary episode. Although that was traumatic. You know, it was a situation where it was clearly a fantastical thing that had happened to these kids, but it mattered. And people related to that episode because they're like, okay, I don't get, you know, I haven't mind melded and had stuff go on in my head, but I understand where Dick's coming from. I understand the denial Wally's coming from. I understand Artemis. You can understand where every person is coming from, where McGann's coming from, even though you didn't fully know her story if you hadn't watched the whole season. You could look at that and go like, she's feeling out of control. Like she has something, she hurt someone or did something and wants to run away from it. And Canary's saying, you can't run away from yourself, right? It's the thing from, I was just watching Endgame again, where Thor's mom is like, everybody fails at who they should be. Yeah. The sign of a hero is how well they can be who they are. And this is something that took me 35, 40 years to start to get. That I kept trying to be someone I should have been and was doing things that other people had told me I was supposed to be doing. And those all turned out terrible. They were train wrecks. It was awful. And which led to some of these therapy sessions I talked about. Because I wasn't being me. And now I get to be a little more me. So, you know, if you need help, please, you know, reach out to someone who can get that help for you. Took a bit of a aside, deep aside.
Moving from all of that, I also, in that same vein, with the very, very end of that episode, I absolutely loved that montage. And I know I mentioned it on the most recent DC Daily episode, but that I almost started crying watching that episode for the first time because it was just such a cathartic moment of just this soft joy and soft comfort of all of these characters just being able to breathe for a few seconds. And like after the past couple of episodes that we have talked about were rough to watch and get through just because it was a lot, being able to have that moment where I could end an episode and just be like, wow, I feel good right now was really important.
Yeah. And this is something my wife and I talked about too, particularly with we had just spent, before she saw the end of the first season, we had been talking a lot over the last year or two about like this thing where it's like something happens to people and then they drag it on for seasons. Or like if you only just told your friends, these people you profess to love and trust with, in combat in your life, this thing that's happening to you, but they don't, and it just goes on and on and on. And at the end of season 1, where Superboy's like, yeah, I got this thing to tell you. And then everybody comes out and they're mature adults, right? Like treating each other with respect and friendship and support and love. And then you get this episode and it's rough, man. I'm glad this was a roller coaster and not a nosedive, Like this episode is multiple tracks of things. Like Gabrielle's mom just broke my heart.
I didn't even have any notes on that scene, but that whole subplot this episode was incredible and painful and wonderful.
Yes. To have someone who has that much like her mom, having so much personal, deep pain and insight into humanity and her own humanity and her family's anger and pain and how much she's carrying, and be able to look at someone who is trying to do something good, and say, this is, I am going to have that self-awareness is enormous. And to have that modeled in a show like this is fantastic to me. The same thing with pretty much every other thing you're talking about here, right? Like seeing like Dolphin enjoying her new life, with this place. Like she's basically, it sounds to me like she's getting a do-over from something terrible. Right. Yeah. And being able to take that moment and say like, I've known bad men, and, just that all of this in these episodes building up to like what I think is healthy resolution and representation of relationships across the board. And now we've got real clear Wind and Calder, like it's been discussed amongst fans for a long time about Calder being, bi, pan, whatever he happens to decide he is, but being able to see it in a nice, healthy, just, Wind was great. I wish I'd have gotten to see more of his magic too. He's like, hey, hold on there. I didn't quit the Sorceress Academy. I can handle this.
They're so good. And I was so, with that montage, when that montage was over, one of my first thoughts, I was like, I really hope we get to see Calder and Wind more together this season. And immediately the next episode a week later was like, here's Calder and Wind being a battle couple. I'm like, yes, wonderful. And to real quick super sweethearts on it. I love how they're using romantic shorthand to just fill in the gaps on their relationship really quickly, because like there's a lot happening this season. We don't have time for an entire other romantic arc, sort of, but they've been together, and so we get these moments where it's just like, here's them holding hands, here's them kissing underwater, here's them teasing each other in Atlantean, here's all of these little bits that you can just piece together and get like, oh, this is what their relationship is.
Yeah.
And it's so wonderful. And it ends at the end of 21 with the ultimate romantic shorthand that every shipper knows. That's the forehead touch thing. That is the quickest way to any fangirl's heart of like, they did a thing. Like, literally, I have had many a conversation with people where we have freaked out more over two characters doing the forehead touch thing than like an actual kiss, because we're all trash and it's very cute.
That's my son and my daughter will just be watching TV and my son will just lean his head over and I'll lean my head over. He doesn't want to stop watching the show, but he just wanted to be like, hey, love you, Dad. And like, we do a little head touch, and then he calls it a head kiss and, or a head hug, depending on, the mood. And it's fantastic. And there's again, with Calder, he's like, I'm Aquaman, I'm leader of the Justice League. I can't break into somebody's house. I'm just gonna knock on the door. And I love how he's like carrying. I think he had lightning. He's like carrying lightning. I can't remember if he had lightning or Dick. And he's just like, "Thank you for the hospitality." And he's just like walking out the door. And this Gretchen Good is horrifying. I've seen many interpretations of her. The Justice League, Unlimited Justice League cartoon had her in it. Yes, she's always been rough, and I've seen her in the comics. And there is something deeply disturbing about her in this, in a way that makes me so uncomfortable. Like this is the way I feel like she should be represented. Like
half of her dialogue just has me being like, nope, I want to get away.
I'm noping right out of this.
Noping right out of the situation.
Yeah, and then seeing Jefferson and Dick, in this state, and like it's just so hard. Should we bring up Adolfo?
Hi, there's only one book in the Young Justice universe, and it's The Mysteries of Adolfo, which is a reference I will never understand.
So here's
people who don't know.
Right? So here's your stick, right? They're both reading it, same episode, right? So
both
Jace
and Gretchen Good are reading a book that the cover says it's The Mysteries of Adolfo.
Yes.
And for eagle-eyed viewers, it is the same book that opens the passageway in that episode in season 1 that's got Artemis and Dick Grayson in the library as they're trying to outrun the red androids.
Reds, yeah.
And it's the same book that Connor reads in college in the one episode we see him at college in season 2. There's only one book, and it's a gothic romance by Anne Radcliffe, and I will never understand. Richard Kreutz Landry did a whole thing where he read it for us to try and see if there was a connection.
Assistant editor.
And there isn't.
Assistant editor. Hats off, Richard Kreutz Landry, assistant editor, live tweeted reading the book so the rest of us didn't have to. And we're all like, is this tied to McGann and Connor somehow? And what is it? I still do not know.
The conclusion was he was like, I don't know. He read an entire Gothic novel and went, I still don't know.
I got nothing for you. So I don't know. Now it shows up twice. I have no idea. We got to figure this one out. I don't know what it is. It's so funny. Oh my gosh. I think 2 things we should probably wrap up before we get into Neal. One, Jace.
I don't trust her. I don't like her.
Who was I talking to? Talking about it was Ishan Sherwood when I was at Gen Con last weekend. Ishan, who you guys might know from our diversity episode and the discussion sessions and from our Masks AP playing Superboy, he was saying, but Jace called and Jace communicated with her old mentor and said, I know it's been years. And it's like, okay. And then she's texting with him. Now, she did get a phone call with him, and Ultra Humanite's using one of those voice translator things that are from the nascent quote-unquote Gorilla City, because if you have to read that comic where there's 16 different canon gorillas to figure out where Ultra Humanite comes from. But he made a point, I don't know what the timeline is. It doesn't seem 100% spot on, but there is a possibility. Sorry, Emily. Got to give Neal a little bit of feeding on this one. That Jace made this... Ultra Humanite was a brilliant geneticist beforehand, so is she communicating with Ultra Humanite, not realizing he's Ultra Humanite?
What? I don't know. We won't know. We'll find out possibly by the end of the season. But even disregarding all of that brings forward important information. Disregarding that, sorry, that's not what I mean. I mean, even outside of that,
yes,
I don't like her behavior.
Oh, no.
Because it boils down to me watching these episodes. She literally tells Halo not to talk to Brion until they have information. And then Brion is like, maybe I should reach out to Halo. And she's like, don't do that. Let Halo come to you. She deliberately isolates both of them when they are both really emotionally distressed right now. And I hate it.
I am 100% on board with you. I am still team not Jace.
I don't know if she's part of the light, but I still think she's bad.
Yeah, something's not good.
It's a spectrum of evil.
When Ishan brought that up, I was it was late and I was exhausted, but it made a little bit of sense. So something to throw out there anyway. But the other thing was Karen, right? Because there's been some conversation online about this Karen changing the gene inside her own daughter, kind of a thing. And I've been too busy with conventions and work to really talk about it much online, but like that's not what happened. Like, so she has a moment where you could see her changing a DNA thing, a double helix. She's changing something, but that's in a flashback where she did it for her dissertation or whatever. That's not her daughter. And then after that, she pulls the vial out, and then she floats there, and then it fades away. And then she said she did the right choice for her daughter, and I was like, Brandon, you totally did that on purpose. So I don't know. I'm not convinced she did. And it's that kind of, eugenics type of thing in this world is a question. Holy smokes, is that a question?
Like, the second it was brought up, I was like, oh no.
Yeah, we're
going to be dealing with this.
Are we going there? That's oof.
Because it's one of those things where when it got to it, the entire episode, I was like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. You think she didn't. I personally think she might have. Like, we don't know, and we're not going to know until we know. But like, even when I was like, I can't believe Karen did this thing that we have no proof that she did, I still understood exactly how she got to that decision, which speaks to how strong the writing is for this subplot that like that was wrapped up in one episode. Like, even as I said, that is a bad choice, I understood exactly how it was the choice she made, if it was the choice she made.
I hear you. That hole in the heart, speaking from a nurse standpoint, I mean, I'm not a NICU nurse or a pediatric nurse in any way, but that whole thing, I'm pretty sure it's called a PFO, if I remember correctly. It's not uncommon to have that hole. It's a connection between the two sides of the atria and the heart so that oxygen levels goes way down. And they actually handled that really well. They were like, oh, she's looking cyanotic and she's blue and she's having these problems. And that's because the unoxygenated blood is mixing with the oxygenated blood and going out into the body. So there's just random percentages, right? Like 50% oxygenated, 50% unoxygenated goes out into the body. And so you're not getting enough oxygen. So it's a thing that's not uncommon in kids. But if you're in a situation where you can't actually do much about it, right? Like, I don't know. So I'd have to go back and rewatch that scene again. I wasn't expecting a neonatal ICU emergency to come up in Young Justice. So I wasn't paying much attention. Like, where are they? And where is this a clinic? What is happening right now? Like, where is
they were at the Ivy Town Hospital.
Okay.
Like the Ivy Town University Hospital. I
mean, NICU teams are ready to go for exactly that particular situation. Neal could actually speak more to that, but like, I don't know. But it was an interesting thing. And I actually really like this conversation with Mal and her. Like,
as you were explaining all of the science, I was sitting here being like, yeah, no, I totally get that. And the only reason I know any of this is because I watched so much Call the Midwife. Like, that entire show was like, I understand what's happening here. And it's not because I'm a medical student. I just watch an entire show about this.
That's funny. I've not seen that show yet. I hear it's amazing, but I've not watched it yet.
It's really good.
Yeah. So that's a pretty common thing.
Different podcast.
Right. But I just love, Karen just like, no, I'm going to do this. Right? Like, I'm going and I'm going to do this thing. I don't know how her shrinking technology would affect her physically and all that kind of stuff. We could get into that kind of super geeky deep dive. But I like that she was there and she was the one making that choice. I also like Mal with a beard. And I don't know why.
And I like that we have confirmation that that's Mal, because we saw him in the Thanksgiving episode, but like, he didn't talk and they never mentioned his name. So I was like, is that Mal? Is this a different boyfriend? Are we who is who?
But this whole
and it is Mal.
It opens up a whole conversation too, where he's like, I went and got tested for the metagene, and I'm like,
like, that's a thing you can do?
Okay, so this is what? And then what happens after that? What if you do have the metagene? What do people do with that? Like, what's the public perception of the metagene? Like, did he do this in a private situation, like with Star Labs, because he's part of the team, or is this a public thing? And if it is a public thing, what happens if you're a teenager, you find out you have the metagene and you have all kinds of issues, and you're thinking, oh, if I might be able to get superpowers if I do something really dangerous, like electrocute myself, right? Or like,
or get kidnapped,
and like, you know what I mean? Like, Static literally got his powers from being electrocuted by the Reach. Like, that's not okay, right? But like, that opens up a whole bunch of like, what? This is, this episode, just the scenes between Mao and Karen open up all kinds of questions about the world and what's happening and how the normal, like, non-meta human on the streets being affected by these things. Yikes.
We'll see how it goes.
No, Emily's just shaking her head at me. Just shaking her head. Yeah.
Can I just live in that montage from the end
Oh,
of,
sorry. Yeah, go
episode
ahead.
20
Yeah.
for forever?
Yep.
Like, can I just be there?
At least to the next Scream
instead of
something.
the anxiety of every other episode? I just want to live in that little 1 minute
Yeah.
of nice dialogue-free, everyone is fine.
All right, let's dive into some things Neal had pointed out, which I also saw was really cool, is Forager when he's looking for Vic. You can see in the reflection is Forager. So Forager's looking in the mirror and seeing himself in that space, which I think is really cool. Bear struck him last time. Maybe the best line in the episode, followed closely by "No more boom tubes in the house," which is hilarious. And also, like,
I know Zeno Robinson was talking about how that was his favorite. He loved getting to say that.
Yeah. Neal had mentioned there's a 20 designation gap in the A series, and you put a note in the notes that said probably those kids that they've been zetaing back and forth, like, into Taos, which is interesting. They just don't have names yet, right?
And they might, it's the thing that only hers just says, like, unnamed meta girl as her designation, and it's only because she won't tell them what her name is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure everybody else's designations are their actual name.
Oh, yeah. Well, like Vic,
whatnot.
right? Stone,
Yeah.
Victor, right. He says Zara's credits as Motherbox, Gabrielle, Halo, Violet. It's like one giant single character all at once.
I absolutely loved it. When Forager is like, oh yes, something similar must have happened to Motherbox, Gabrielle, Halo, Violet. And I'm like, I love that is how you can interpret a situation, Forager.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Neal had said this. I didn't catch this, but he was like, people still don't know about who Oracle is, but they know Oracle exists.
I'm not sure.
I'm not either.
I know. I read that note from Neal
catch
too,
that.
and I wasn't quite sure what he meant.
Yeah, he probably.
Like,
I know he's already caught a couple things that I didn't catch, like that in that montage of stuff that we saw on the G. Gordon Godfrey show, like tweets and stuff like that. That one of them is Condiment King.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. There's like all that stuff like
Yeah,
piled in the
I saw that
background. I did not catch that, actually. He mentioned that on the DC Daily Show, which is really funny. He says Calder has Wind, a new sister, and leading the Justice League, crushing it, which is totally to him.
Calder deserves it.
That's right.
He's had 2 seasons of a very tough life.
Yes.
He deserves some happiness for a bit.
That's right.
Let Calder be happy. 2019.
He's all the Condiment King strikes. The real villain of the series has arrived.
Season 4.
Yeah, season 4 villain. Super villain for sure. Beetle taught Vic that one already. Then the Gar-Vic relationship building is... He was talking about that before. Like,
It's great.
It's super good. I love it.
I love that they're friends. I love these super powered bros just goofing off, doing silly things. Though it does worry me that within 5 minutes of getting control of the arm, like the first thing Vic learns is how to make a laser cannon.
Right.
Like, I feel like there should be some steps before we get to laser cannon,
Right.
but okay.
Right. And then Neal, of course, made this comment I did not catch. We got confirmation from Greg that Gar has just has the top floor, like the penthouse. It's like he doesn't own the whole building, right? So just the top floor. But then Neal's like, poor premier building. But on the plus side, no one's on the floors above them. And I'm just like, talk about the boom tubes. Because it's shaking the whole building every time they come in and out. And now Vic has boom tubes. Yikes.
I feel like Gar just has to play it off as like, I am literally always throwing a party.
Yeah, exactly.
He's gotta like pull a full Bruce Wayne and just play up like the teen party boy personality.
That's true. But he doesn't need a secret identity. He's clearly an outsider, and that's clearly public knowledge now. So I don't know, but he's still gonna do it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, what am I saying?
I'm just saying.
I'm wrong.
He could do it.
That's
just so they don't never explain your powers to the bad guys. Neal said the X-Pit is terrifying, and the visual effect is similar to that caused by the weapon that Granny used in episode 14. So that's interesting. I still do not know what they're going to do with this anti-life equation. Yeah. I do not know. Yeah, the things going around again on Twitter about the first letters of all the episodes spelling out prepare the anti-life equation. We had gotten tagged on that at some point. Somebody took a screenshot. I don't know if it was Tumblr or Facebook, and then they sent it to us. I don't know, 6 or 7 months ago.
It just went through layers and layers of people resharing to the point
Exactly.
where everyone's like, "Where did this come from?"
I don't know where it came from or who got the the leaked titles, because we didn't even know the titles at that point. So like that had not been officially released. So I'd mentioned it on DC Daily, but Hector had surprised me with that question. We didn't prep for that ahead of time. So I was talking about it on the show and saying you can hear me on the show saying we don't know. Like, are these the episode titles? We don't know. Maybe we hadn't got. Now it clearly was an accurate list. So what? Infinity Incorporated. I have got so much to say about Infinity Incorporated and the implications of Infinity Incorporated. Are they inspiring Infinity Incorporated? Do you know Infinity Incorporated at all?
I have no idea what this is. All I know is that Brion read it on his phone and went, does anybody know what this is?
Yeah.
And then got interrupted by a boom tube.
Infinity Incorporated were a team that was made up of all the children of the Justice Society. So Obsidian and Jade were the daughter and the son of Alan Scott, the Alan Scott Green Lantern. And Jade basically has the powers of a Green Lantern ring. And Obsidian's a little bit like Cloak, kind of in a way, like Cloak and Dagger Cloak.
Their names are Obsidian and Jade.
Yep, they sure are.
Because he's a Green Lantern.
Because she's a Green Lantern. That's right. I killed Emily. It wasn't
Please
me.
Continue. Please ignore me. Just ignore me.
Yeah, Hector Hall, I think, was like this powered armor guy. I read Infinity Incorporated way back in the day, early 90s, I think, so I barely remember a lot of it, but there was a lot of the kids of the Justice Society. So now I'm like, you just name drop Infinity Incorporated and walk away again? Okay, well, I guess that's happening. It's like a DC canon team number 14? I don't know.
Is it a fan club?
Is it a fan club? Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Oh, wait, and here comes Neal saying, okay, Ultra Humanite, I hear you, but does Jace know that is who it is? Oh, Neal actually mentioned some of the same things Ishan had said. Ultra Humanite hasn't been part of the light until within the last year or so. She mentioned that it has been a long time since she's spoken to her mentor. That could very well mean that when Jace last interacted with said mentor, it would have been an older woman who was a geneticist. Oh. The older woman, though, in the comics was actually an actress, though, so I don't know. I don't know if the tie-in comics explained who she was. Yep, I don't know. We're going to see. We're just going to have to see. All right. Anything else you want to add to these? So much stuff.
I am worried about Dick Grayson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
that's my final note.
That's the thing. She cleansed them.
But Black Lightning's doing fine, and Dick Grayson is thrashing around in a hospital bed.
Do you think it's because Jefferson has a metagene?
Yes.
Dang it.
Yes, I do.
Oh, Dick.
Nightwing is just a normal human boy, and I am worried for him.
I wasn't until just now. Thank you, Emily.
I apologize.
Yeah.
I want our favorite acrobat boy to be okay. I'm just worried about him.
Yeah. All right, let's crash whatever mode we can crash here.
Tell us something we don't know yet.
Sorry, BB. We can't risk altering the time stream. We do that, we're all feeling the mode.
In Crashing the Mode, we'll be discussing potential storylines running through our heads based on the episodes released at the time of recording. This Crashing the Mode is based on episodes 1 through 21. Yeah. I don't know. I'm still like, Jace is evil.
My two notes here are about Jace, and one is her quote where she says, "We've talked, but never about her leaving us," and does not elaborate. And I'm over here like, Jace, stop it and tell people what you've supposedly discovered about Halo to, explain why she might run away because she's feeling isolated and is worried about dying. Maybe important information to tell a team that is trying to go and find this girl who ran away.
Yeah.
It's also super suspicious that despite the fact that she is a doctor who should be looking after Vic, she tries to volunteer to go find Halo. And I am so glad Artemis shuts that down because, no.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
Also, my very angry all caps note that just says, "Jace, stop calling them your kids right now unless you have something you'd like to share with the rest of the class."
It's so disturbing.
I don't like it. I very much don't like it.
I don't like it at all.
And so we're just being super suspicious of Jace, but I know Neal had one quick note where he mentions the fact that Granny Goodness refers to Halo's language that she speaks to cleanse everyone as the tongue of the old gods.
Yeah.
To which Neal has, with no context, just left the note, Halo is the freaking anti-life equation.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know what the anti-life equation is, so I have no idea if that makes any sense.
I don't know if...
But
I don't know
throwing it out there...
And I think she says Promethean gods is what she says, actually. I have to go back and rewatch it again.
No, that's what Forager says when they're on the source wall, I think.
He says Promethean, she says old gods?
I think.
I don't know either. I don't remember. We'll have to go back and
We've only seen these episodes a few times, guys.
Yeah.
We haven't had time.
Yeah, it's been a busy few weeks. So, yeah, I thought so. It doesn't matter. Like, it's interesting. Why would she know that? And then Gretchen says at the end,
right?
I found the anti-life equation. So it's Halo, but what does that even mean? And I don't even know.
Or is it something that she found when torturing a mother box for an extended period of time? Because the mother box was trapped in the X-Pit with Nightwing and Lightning. So...
Wow, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Because the mother box is a living thing that was experiencing ongoing pain from the same stuff that Nightwing and Lightning were going through.
That's interesting. And why? But why would a mother box know and not a father box? I don't know. I'm fascinated.
I don't know. None of us know. We're all just living in a world of anxiety.
We got a bunch of relationship kind of stuff kind of helped and got wrapped up a little bit, and then way more questions. So, and we have, what do we have? 5 episodes left? We'll see how this goes. All right, let's wrap this up. I think we can say to Out of the Watchtower, thank you for spending some time with us. If you'd like to join us in discussing this incredible series, you can find us on Twitter at The YJ Files, on Facebook at Crashing the Mode, on Tumblr at theyfiles.tumblr.com, on our website, crashingthemode.com. And if that isn't enough, you can email us at whelmedpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, and iHeartRadio.
If you'd like to support our show, please consider sharing it with a friend and joining our chats on social media. You can also support the show by giving us a 5-star review and/or rating on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. The ratings, comments, and subscriptions help other people find the show. And if you do leave us a rating, please let us know at our email address or on social media, especially if you live outside the US, since we have to look a little harder to find those ones. So just make our job a little easier for the day.
If you are able to support us monetarily, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/crashingthemode. Even $1 a month can help us do in-person interviews, actual play podcasts, fan meetups, discussion sessions, and more.
And remember,
stay whelmed, everyone.
You've been listening to Whelmed, the Young Justice Files podcast. Our hosts are Rich Howard and Emily Booza. Our editor and producer is Neal Powell. Our theme was composed by Emily Mio. Our logo was created by Kevin Bates. Whelmed is a fan-made podcast and is not officially affiliated with DC Comics, DC Entertainment, Warner Brothers Animation, and any other owners of Young Justice or its related source material. As such, these companies have sole ownership of all symbols, images, names, logos, and proprietary material related to Young Justice. Original content of this podcast is ours under Creative Commons. Thanks for listening, and stay whelmed.